Best headline article of the year. Survey finds Americans wildly misinformed on housing market. Two things. One, not if you've been listening to me since forever. And two, no duh. Welcome to the Peterson Report for January 27, 2023, the latest and greatest in real estate numbers and news in American Canyon and the surrounding cities. But before we get there, good luck to Brock Purdy in his quest to become the first rookie QB to lead his team to the Super Bowl. Regardless of how you feel about us white wine sipping, even 49er fans, that really is a major accomplishment, especially for the last player chosen in this year's draft. This is coming at a time when there are not enough feel-good stories anywhere, especially here in the Bay Area right now. So I'm really enjoying this one. Moving on to real estate. The Hill, a daily rag devoted to all things Capitol Hill, generally speaking, ran an article about housing at the beginning of the week. There were several eye-openers from a NerdWallet survey that they did. To start off with, 28 million people said that they were looking to purchase a home this year. At the end of December, there were fewer than 700,000 homes for sale. And on average, they hope to spend about $269,000. The national median home sales price clocked in at about $388,000. These numbers just aren't adding up. So what's up with the disconnect? Well, 2/3 of the survey respondents also thought that there would be a market crash. That happens to fly in the face of everything that leading economists and those pesky facts seem to be telling us. Most economists expect the market to remain about where it is right now, maybe dipping as much as 5%. Even if we go by the most dire predictions that I've been seeing, a drop of 10%, this is hardly a crash, especially when you realize that there were double-digit gains across most of the country for 2 straight years. As Holden Lewis of NerdWallet reminds us, quote, home prices have already been falling, especially on the West Coast, and prices will fall in some cities in 2023, but a drop in home prices isn't necessarily a crash, end quote. And so very true. And this is another thing that I've been preaching for the past couple of months. A price drop, a price correction even, doesn't mean that the bottom has fallen out of the market. The underlying fundamentals of the industry are good. However, with all of the headlines pushed out by the mainstream media, I said mainstream media, it's no wonder that Americans think that a crash is imminent. There just aren't any data points showing that we're heading for a wave of foreclosures. In fact, the folks over at Keeping Current Matters wrote a blog about it earlier in the week. According to Adam Data's 2022 year-end report on foreclosures, filings are up an astounding 115% from 2021. There's a big but there, but I'll come right back to that. Because I can see it now. Newsrooms, big and small, across the country are salivating, getting their banner headlines ready for the second coming of the Great Recession, because that's what sells. And you know, they're also talking about the recession in 23. That, of course, is going to leave the housing market in tatters again. And yet, here's the thing. Right now, it just doesn't look like it's going to happen, especially for real estate. While the number of foreclosure filings doubled last year, how could they not? The federal government basically banned foreclosures for 2 years. According to the VP of Market Intelligence at Adam, quote, foreclosure activity remains significantly lower than it was prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. It seems clear that government and mortgage industry efforts during the pandemic, coupled with the strong economy, have helped prevent millions of unnecessary foreclosures, end quote. Oh, you say, but we're heading for a recession? To borrow from Lee Corso, not so fast, my friends. Although a recession in 2023 still seems likely, according to economic policy wonks like Paul Krugman, any recession that comes our way is probably going to be fairly mild. In fact, the GDP for last quarter was higher than expected at 2.9%. And, as I mentioned last week, builder confidence went up for the first time in a year. There is a lot to be confident about and excited about as we slog along this winter. Yeah, you say, but what about those super high interest rates? Aren't these the highest interest rates in like forever? Because going back to that Hill article, 61% of respondents to the NerdWallet survey said that interest rates were at an unprecedented level, as in they had never been this high before. Obviously, those of us in the real estate industry needed to do more than post cute memes showing how high the interest rates were back in the 80s because y'all didn't get the message. Or maybe we just couldn't overcome the shouting from the continual headlines about how the interest rates were higher than a decade, which I can understand for both Gen Z and millennials, it might feel like forever. Yes, for the first time in history, mortgage rates doubled in a year. That's not the same thing, though, as being the highest ever. The 50-year average for a 30-year mortgage is actually 7.75%. An analogy. Earlier in this week, my wife and I mentioned to one of our kids that we were disappointed in his grade. His immediate reaction was to say that he was a disappointment. And we had to say there's a distinction between disappointed in one specific incident and disappointed in general. There's a difference between mortgage rates being higher than they've been in the last couple of years and a difference in making it sound like they're higher than they've ever been. It's time for the media to be more responsible with its coverage and headlines. The fact is, I'm still bullish on 2023 for real estate, even though it's not starting off with a bang, because last January, the year began with only 2 homes for sale in American Canyon, and today there are 18. Inflation continues to drive down mortgage rates. Right now, they're already at 6.15%. And anecdotally, there are more buyers coming through open houses than last year. In fact, I've had more buyers come through my 3 open houses in Fairfield and Vallejo this year than the 20 plus I held open all of last year. The drop off in homes sold won't be as dramatic as the numbers here, as the numbers may be nationally. All in all, we're still in really good shape. So that's all for the Peterson Report. I'll see y'all next week.